Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to the poem of the day for today, which is Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. Embarrassingly, I missed yesterday was Herman Melville's birthday, would have been Herman Melville's birthday. I think he was born, as I read, in 1809. Um, and if you don't know, he was the author of, among other things, Moby Dick, which is probably my favorite novel. And so I was sad to have missed the celebration of his would be birthday. And that's why today I chose a poem of his from 1860, which is called Misgivings. And in it, it's a two stanza mock sonnet. So it's not going to conform to the standard structures and patterns that we have seen in other sonnets and that are expected of sonnets. Um, and it has an irregular rhyme scheme to it, one that's identifiable, but one that's atypical. The two stanzas each have 7 lines in them, so the entire poem ends up being 14 lines. And there's a turn in the middle. And keep in mind, I'll talk more about this after I read, but keep in mind that this is written in 1860. And if you know even very little about American history, the nation was torn in two at that point, and civil war was on the horizon. It seemed inevitable. And he's writing against that background and in that context. So I think we should keep that in mind as we read. So this is Misgivings by Herman Melville. When ocean clouds over inland hills sweep storming in late autumn brown, and horror the sodden valley fills, and the spire falls crashing in the town, I muse upon my country's ills. The tempest bursting from the waste of time on the world's fairest hope linked with man's foulest crime. Nature's dark side is heated now. Ah, optimist cheer, disheartened flown, a child may read the moody brow of yon black mountain lone. With shouts the torrents down the gorges go, and storms are formed behind the storm we feel. The hemlock shakes in the rafter, the oak in the driving keel. Okay. So structurally, you might have heard, as I read, a rhyme scheme that goes something like A B A B A C C D B D B D F F, which again is rather atypical, but it does end both stanzas in a rhyming couplet. There was also an internal rhyme in line 13. I think there's others, but I noticed in line 13 as I was reading, storms formed behind the storm we feel. So we have an internal rhyme in there, which gives within that verse a sense of a circling, which is what's happening, right? The forming of the storms, but also the idea that past tumult and past unrest is bottling up and it's circling around like these storm clouds that are about to open up and empty. So within this poem, I hear the speaker anxiously lamenting a coming change in weather or a coming storm that is going to not just be a bad storm. It's sweeping in, it's moving the seasons away like autumn. It's filling the entire valley with horror. It's knocking down spires, like maybe church spires or the tops of tall buildings. And when seeing those things, the speaker then in line 5, and there's a M dash here, so there's a pause, I muse upon my country's ills. So the speaker right away makes this connection for us in line 5 of a literal gathering storm, but one that's reflecting and is metaphorical for a gathering storm within the country. And in the second stanza, the speaker returns to that nature's dark side being heated, and the dark side referring to the ability for destruction. The optimist has flown away. It says that hope is replaced by crime. Things are so bad that even a child can read it, a child can pick up on it. And what he leaves us with in the last two lines is not really any sense of hope. The last two lines are: storms are formed behind the storm we feel. The hemlock shakes in the rafter, the oak in the driving keel. The very foundations of buildings, ships, gathering places are being shaken. Almost, I was thinking when I read this, almost of like the shaking of the temple, and this idea that something is about to be unloosed that can't be put back, and something is about to be unloosed that's going to change the very foundations, in this case, of the country forever. And Melville's seeing this about a year before the Civil War breaks out, if we assume he's writing it around that time. And because of the strength of the metaphor and the lack of specificity of the exact text of the poem, I can't help but think about how relevant and appropriate this poem is to the place where the United States is right now. Even with, I mean, I think the weather metaphor becomes even more appropriate when we think about weather events that have been caused by climate change and the refusal to acknowledge or to do anything to deal with that, to heed that warning. But there's a series of other countries' ills and man's foulest crimes that are sullying the spirit of the nation and are turning people against one another and shaking the very foundations of democracy, but also American ideals. Again, such to the point that a child may read it. A friend of mine, I won't get too specific, but a friend of mine mentioned the other day they were talking, their young kid happened to see what was on TV and asked what a pedophile was, because that's being covered in the news now, and accusations about who may or may not be one. And she was caught in this moment where she then had to explain to her child what that word meant, in a way that would make enough sense for this kid, but not completely traumatize this kid. And it just made me think how difficult it must be to be a parent at this moment, but also how difficult and scary and unsure and uncertain it must be to be a child in this moment. And so this poem itself, as I mentioned, is not, I don't think, offers us much hope. And so I'm not going to try to force readings of hope within it, but I do think that it's worth giving pause to the speaker's misgivings and to see that the expressions of one of our great writers right before the Civil War is something that I think can be moved to what a lot of us are feeling, at least in the United States at this time. So sorry for the bit of the downer today, but that's what you're going to get when you read poetry. You're going to get some things that are beautiful and bucolic and promising, and others that rightfully focus our gaze upon the things that we might not want to linger on. Nevertheless, I wish you all a very happy Saturday, a blessed and hopefully joyful Saturday, and may peace be with you.